What's up, y'all? Welcome to Furey Talks. I am your host, Seth Furey. So we live in a world where dating can be difficult, especially in the city of LA. But now I want you to think about how much more difficult it would be as a foreigner coming over to this city. So today I have the perfect person to discuss this with. I have my good friend, Yasmeen Scarab. Welcome.
Hello.
How are you, my dear?
Good, how are you?
Amazing. So you are
Egyptian. Yep.
Beautiful. I love it. I don't know too many Egyptians. You're like my only Egyptian friend.
Yay.
So thank you for coming on.
Of course.
How long have you been in LA?
I've been in LA for about 4 years.
4 years,
like,
okay.
Going on to 5, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's your thoughts of it in the dating world? Are you single?
Yes, I am.
Have you had a relationship since you've been here?
Single, guys.
Shoot your shots, y'all.
Don't.
So you I was about to say, you set yourself up, so don't complain when they come. So have you been single the whole time?
No, I actually, the first couple months that I moved to LA, I was in a relationship.
Okay.
I was in a relationship for about like a month and a half.
Very long.
Worst relationship of my life.
And the last one?
No, it was, no. It was just bad.
Okay.
And then it kind of like taught me how to date in LA, and it, you know, kind of toughened my skin up a little bit.
Yeah.
Stayed single for like a year, and then met my ex and dated him for about a year and a half.
Okay, so that was pretty lengthy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I myself have an idea of what dating in LA is like, but I have nothing as far as in Egypt or in the other foreign parts of the world. So what is the difference over there compared to here?
Well, there's no such thing as dating in Egypt. It's you leave your parents' home and you get married, and boom.
Oh yeah, you got, okay.
That's it. So
is it arranged over there still?
No, not arranged, but the culture is a little bit different.
Okay.
So it's, if you're a woman and you know you're in a household or whatever, blah blah blah, you have to wait until somebody comes and says, "Hey, I want to get married," and then that's when you can move out.
Wait, so somebody has to come and claim you?
Yeah, pretty much.
You don't get to go out and find a man?
Nope.
You just got to walk around,
You
be
just
as
gotta
attractive looking as you can. And,
it usually happens like where somebody knows somebody and they know your dad and they know, you know, the uncle or whatever. So
got you.
Then they're like, hey, we have the suitor for you and he's coming over to meet you.
Yeah.
And then you meet and you're like, oh, yes.
Now, has that happened to you? Were you presented with somebody you didn't like?
Not actually, but there was a lot of talk about it with my parents. Like, oh, we know this guy. Oh, we know this guy. Oh, your cousin's friend's doctor.
So the talks were getting started.
Yeah, and I was like, I'm good.
And that's when you jumped on the plane.
I was like, I'm leaving. Screw.
So now that you have that experience, very structural, very traditional. Now you come over here, and we're just some wild animals.
Wild.
We have zero traditions,
wild hogs.
if any. I mean, maybe some people who grew up in the church, maybe. But in LA, they're all kind of chuck those out the window.
I think, honestly, speaking of church, I think that's why I'm so attracted to like the Black culture in America and like the African American culture, because I feel like they're the most ones who are religiously cultured and they're very in tune with their morals and everything.
Yeah.
And it's very similar to Egyptians, you know, where other races and other cultures in America, they're kind of like, fuck yeah, like let's just do whatever.
tell me about the Black folk, our people, and how we are matching up with your folk. Because I don't, like I said, you're the only Egyptian I know. So if I ever go to Egypt, basically I'm gonna just have a good old time because they don't love us, kind of. Okay, so
pretty much.
That's good, yeah. So what is it that you would put your finger on to say that I feel most at home and most comfortable with the Black culture?
Family, morals, and just how you were raised.
Okay.
So I feel like in Black families, you guys are raised with more a strict kind of household.
Oh, that, yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
You
So
know?
now I see where you're going with it.
So
Okay.
so there's, you know, there's consequences to things you do. There's punishment, you know, there's spanking, there's whatever.
Yeah.
And we have that too.
Okay.
Where in, whether it's like, you know, a Caucasian family or whatever other race, because I don't know too many about, you know, Asian cultures. I know that they do things too.
Yeah,
but
they'll get you with the slip.
Yeah. So I just feel like it's a little bit more similar, and I can relate to their family, and you know I can have an actual conversation like, oh yeah, I agree. You know, I also do that. So
that makes sense. Okay, because we absolutely are. I grew up where shit did not slide. Like, and you know it's funny because this new age that we live in, I don't know if it's the time that I grew up in versus the culture or whatever the case is, but I myself, I grew up in a world where if I did something, I got popped. Right?
Yeah.
And I didn't cry to the world. I didn't cry to social services. I basically was just like, I messed up. I'm getting disciplined. And me and all my siblings turned out to be wonderful men and
Exactly.
ladies. And that's just the way I see it. So it's
Exactly.
hard for me to fight those teachings when it's just, there's a difference between abuse. Nobody was putting hands and fists on me, but a good old fashioned spanking, I'm with that. So, okay, I can see where you can find the comparisons because, if you ever were to get attached to somebody and start a family or something, it'd be nice to know you guys had similar backgrounds and just ideologies of how to raise these kids with some structure.
Yeah.
So that's dope.
Speaking of like children, when I first moved to America, I always thought that I would never marry an American. I would always just end up with an Egyptian no matter what. And it was because I was scared, of the culture. It was kind of like, if I have kids, I want them to have the Egyptian side, of like we're such a funny bunch of people, we have such a light-hearted way of everything, and we love comedy, and we just love to have fun. And we have a lot of jokes that not a lot of other Arab countries understand.
Yeah.
And I wanted that in my children, but now I'm just like, honestly, I would like them to have a little bit of both. Like, they're going to get that from me regardless, because I'm just crazy.
Yes.
But, yes, he agrees. But I also want, a different culture, because now knowing, like, that I lived in Egypt and lived in America, I can see how much more broadened my brain has become learning both cultures.
Well, I think that's the beauty of America.
Yeah.
Like, you are
Very
surrounded by
diverse.
so many different cultures. Exactly. Like, to live, I myself would never know what it's like to live around only black people.
Yeah.
I mean, I got the city and the hood that I may have grown up in, but just a couple miles away, we're in suburb town. So we're always going to, even
Where
when
are
I
you
went
from?
to school, I'm from Boston.
Oh, okay.
But I went to school at a predominantly white school. So I was part of a program where they picked up the city kids, drove us like an hour away to the suburbs,
shit, I
just so
didn't
we
know
could get a good education. And that was like great for me because I got a little bit of all the cultures, right? So I always was able to identify, obviously we had our ways, but I was still able to dabble in their ways and like become one well-rounded human being. So I don't know what it's like to only be around black folk, like somebody who is Egyptian from Egypt.
Yeah.
So you come here and you have these thoughts like, I need an Egyptian man to keep this tradition going.
Yeah.
And now you're like, wait, there's actually some other stuff out there that I can now infuse into my life. And now you just become like this hybrid of cultures. And I think that's the best part of being here.
I think that's why everyone should definitely travel. And not only travel for like a week. I'm not saying go to Mexico, go to Tulum for 1 week and come back. I'm not saying that. I mean, like, actually travel and just suck in the culture. Like, go to Japan and stay there for like a couple months. Go to Australia, go to Paris, try to stay for like a couple weeks, like 3 weeks or so if you can. And just learn the people. Learn the people, learn the language a little bit, learn the food, the culture. Just it really changes how you think about everything. Like, whether it's in a relationship, in school, or just in life.
Exactly. So when it comes to, you said that we were kind of crazy, right?
Yeah.
How would you describe crazy in a more direct form compared to the way they are back home? Because they just sleep around a lot? Is it
that's one of the things. I mean, growing up in Egypt, obviously it's like no sex until marriage, and I agreed, I past tense. I agreed. I did. I had a very strong stance on that. I was like, yes, that's true, and honestly, the way I was thinking about it was really cute. I was like, why would I do that to my future husband? Why would I have him think of me like, oh, like she already did it with someone else, like I want this to be special, like her. I want her to be special to him. And I wanted it to be just like new, out of the box, out of the wrapper, for him. And then as I grew older and I came here and it was just kind of like everybody's fucking, and I was like, whoa, this is crazy. And like people were just living with their boyfriends at the time, and I went to senior year here, high school, and people were pregnant, and I was.
Well, you got here when? I'm sorry. So
I went back and forth a lot. My life story is kind of a lot, but senior year I was here, and then I went back. And then I went back, and then I came here for college. So senior year was kind of like the most cultural shock that I got, because there were girls that were pregnant. Everybody was living with their boyfriends, and it was just a lot of like, whoa, like what is happening? And I was still in a point in my life where I was very like, no, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. But as I grew older, I started to learn, like, it's not that it's wrong, it's just different.
Yeah.
So people that aren't from here, people who have different views, they just need to understand that just because you don't agree with something doesn't mean it's wrong.
Exactly.
It's just you don't understand it, and it's a different culture. So I started understanding it. I still wouldn't have my kids like getting pregnant or having sex at such a young age.
That's not ideal for anybody.
No, it's like I still think that's super insane. But I do think that it's important to date somebody before marriage. I think it's important to live with somebody before you get married, because that's a different thing that you're seeing in them. That's, a different side, and a more intimate side that if you don't do it, you're going to get stuck with him for the rest of your life, and you're like, oh, you do that? Ooh, So it definitely was like, oh, I don't like it at first, but now I'm like, no, I actually kind of understand it.
So all your family's still back in Egypt?
My dad's in Egypt.
Okay.
My mom usually is in Egypt, but right now she's in Florida. So
yeah, okay. She's so she came over too. Okay.
Yeah. My sister, my oldest sister, lives in Florida. My other sister lives in New York. My brother's in Chicago, but currently in Egypt.
Okay.
And then I'm here.
So because you have mostly the family is in U.S. now, have they all sort of evolved their thoughts? Like, are they not as hard on you for living this American life?
No, I think I'm the only one that's
evolved.
Really?
Sorry. So you can't go back to mom and just tell her about guys you met. You got to keep everything a secret.
See, my mom knows, but we never talk about it. It's one of those things that's like, I know you're dating, but I'm not gonna talk to you about it. Like, we're not there. And it's not kind of like a play dumb. It's more of a respect thing. It's like, you can't do that. So when you start thinking that it's okay to do it and that you can come to me and talk to me about it, that's when I feel like there's something wrong.
Gotcha.
So I think as long as I hide it from her, we're
good.
And then my dad just thinks I'm a princess who's never dated anyone in my life.
Sweet. Well, hopefully Daddy don't watch Furey Talks.
I'll just block him from everything.
I thought it, like, my mother and I like this, and I just thought it, obviously growing up as a kid, you can't tell your mother certain stuff, of course.
But it's different for guys.
Well, not even for guys. It's just a respect thing because you're a child.
Okay.
And your mother, regardless of the fact, doesn't want to hear. Of course, it's going to get more acceptable quicker for me than my sister.
Exactly.
But even still, as a kid, 13 years old, you're not going to go to your mom and be like, man, you should have seen this girl I had by
last
night. Yeah. We were in your room, by the way. No, you can't.
Your bed
all that
is
stuff
great.
Got to stay secret. But now that I'm older, I love the fact that I can talk to my mother like one of my friends. Like, I might not go into the extreme details, but we can talk.
I hope not.
No. Yeah, I won't go into that, but we can talk. And I just think it's so cool how we laugh about it. And we start to realize, like, we're just two human beings and we're not that different after all. Obviously, there's like a certain level of boundaries that we'll have, but I love being able to have that friendship with my mother and be able to tell her some stuff. So, I don't know. I wonder how much I would be... But I guess you never talked to your mom about it at all. So I guess you never really got to feel what it would be like to be able to talk to her like that.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think it's something that I not missed out on, but I think that when I have kids, I think it's gonna be different. It's gonna
because you'll be like that cool mom.
Yeah,
that they can
not like super
not
cool,
uncool.
like not like Mean Girls mom cool, but to the point where I
understand.
I want her to be able to talk to me if something happens and if she needs guidance. If something happens and she can't come and talk to me, then I feel like kids kind of spaz out and do whatever, and that can cause more damage in the future.
I'm sure, yeah.
And I think with me, as a child who didn't have that growing up, if something would have happened, in like 7th grade, I was in Egypt, and 7th grade was kind of like the most wild, year of my life. Where
7th grade? Oh wow.
Where I didn't do anything crazy. Not like that. But it was like my first kiss. My first and I didn't know how to act. I didn't know like how to feel, and luckily I have 2 great sisters who are like my best friends, and that's who I would go to. And
are you the youngest?
Yeah, I'm the baby.
Wow. Shout out, me too. Yeah.
Really? Yeah, isn't it great?
I love it because I get to learn from all their mistakes.
Exactly.
Your parents aren't as hard on you as they were on them.
Yeah,
because
they're like, yeah, exactly. They're like, oh, whatever. I had 3 other kids. They'll figure it out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so I dated a girl once from Saudi Arabia.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Are
they more strict?
The most strict
they're more
of
strict.
the Arabs.
Okay.
And dun, dun, dun.
Now, here's the thing. I obviously met her in LA.
Okay.
And beautiful girl. She wasn't like dressed all provocative or anything like that. So she very much was maintaining her respect, I guess you'd call it. But she also wasn't wearing the hijab. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hijab, yeah.
So with that being said, I approached her like she was just a regular LA girl. Through conversation, she, let me know, hey, I'm not comfortable coming by your place. But many girls will say that as well.
Yeah.
No big deal. And then we dove a little bit further into conversation. And then it started to come out. She started to tell me about her background. And then I started to understand. Not to the full depth quite yet. So we finally hung out, and she decided to tell me she was a virgin. Right? And she was, I think, 29 at the time.
Dang.
She was the grown virgin.
Virgin, I like that.
Yeah, so that meant that she was it's easy to be a virgin up until 17, 18. Like, most people aren't losing it.
I was later than that too.
Well, that's fine. You see what I mean? But to be 29 at that point, you have actually committed to. You're almost at that age where you might get married.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, she felt comfortable around me to feel like it was very confusing because she would do things that was like, she don't feel like a virgin. Like, her energy feels very much sexual. And I'm amazed that somebody who walks around with this kind of energy is still a virgin. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was like, is this some kind of game that she runs on guys? And maybe they feel like, hey, I'll take it from you.
No, it's like...
What do you think of it? So I'm like, why is she...
Oh, I can definitely explain this because that's how I was until I lost my virginity.
So you would like advertise it that you were...
No. I was super sexual, and I think, and it's weird to say that because it's not like I was super sexual as like doing other things. It was just, I'm a very sexual person. Yeah. So like being a virgin for so long, like I'm not going to say when I lost my virginity, but let's just say it was very...
Saves me a question.
It was very... I know, right? Yeah. It was very later on than normal people in America. So I was a very sexual person. Like I always thought about things. I've always like fantasized about things. I always wanted things. And I think it's because we're not getting it. So we're always thinking about it, and we're always like, well, what if? Or like, oh, well, I kind of like this. Or like, da-da-da. And we're just like adding more. It's just getting built up and up and up to the point where it's like when we do something, it's fucking crazy. Yeah. And then, but we're like, no, but we can't have sex,
Yeah. So you'll basically lead that man all the way up to the promised land.
Yep.
And be like, you cannot have a drink of that water.
Blue balls.
Hey,
pretty much.
At least you are able to admit what you're doing to us.
Yeah.
Okay. And so
it's all of us. It's all Arab women. We'll all do that. But it's because we're so like no sex. Yeah. That
you're just like, as long as we don't do this,
listen,
we're cool.
And it's like going back to 7th grade. Like I knew a lot of girls in Egypt doing crazy things, and even me, I think I'm just a different kind of like mentality. Even me, as like I went to America, I came back, whatever. My mindset to that was just like, we're so young, and like these girls are doing like crazy things, and like I'm saying like sex but not sex pretty much. So like just
basically
different holes is like what I'm trying to explain. And I'm like, it's still sex, like oral, that's oral sex. Not anal, that's like it's in
their mind, they're like, we can justify anything
as long as the hymen isn't broken. And I'm just like, that's not how that works, but okay.
So no, that's interesting, because
education, guys.
I do understand that, because I used to have 2 friends of mine. Okay. They were like my best friends in high school. And they were black, they were from US, they were just very religious. Okay. So they had the same belief, no sex until marriage. I don't know why I felt like it was my personal duty to get them laid by a certain, like, I don't know why I was so corrupt
the devil
in their
on
life.
Their shoulder.
Like, we were so bad. I mean, we would lock them in the room and like throw a porno on and be like, watch this. And they would be like, we'd be like, come on, man. You're a man. Watch this. We're like 15, 16.
Damn.
I'm sorry, fellas. Yeah, no, we were just doing anything we could.
How are they now? Are they okay?
Here's the story. No, here's the thing.
Oh, God.
I felt like they wanted somebody to save them, right? But they needed somebody to force them to do it so that they could say, it wasn't us. We didn't really want to do it. They made us do it. And I was like, nah, y'all were right on the edge. I could feel it. So we would mess around with him like that. We would always tell them stories of what we were doing over the weekend, because we just wanted to see their reaction, see how uncomfortable they would get. And
guys are so brutal. Oh my goodness. Jeez.
I'm sure they're gonna watch this. But they were my boys. Like after a while, I really respected what they were doing. All the girls wanted them. Every girl in high school wanted them because they knew they couldn't have them. I was just like, I wonder if y'all would really be getting this type of attention if y'all were out there
Just
giving
out
it away.
here, yeah.
But they weren't giving it away, and they loved them for the self-control they had. Now they are hooking up with women. They're not married, so they weren't able to keep it all the way to the marriage. I think their oldest brother,
How old are they?
like early 30s.
Okay.
Their older brother is, he's got to be like over mid, like 36 maybe,
Okay.
like that. So, but he's been with this girl for a while. The younger ones, they've been with like the same girls for, they were never hoes ever.
Okay.
Like when they did
That's
decide
good.
to, shout out to them. When they did decide
Shout out to good guys.
yes, not good. They just, hey, listen.
Don't be a
Doesn't make
hater.
you a bad guy if you want to see some options, or if the girls you come across aren't worthy of keeping.
That's true.
Yes, so
I will 100%
I'm not going to just
agree
take
with
the first
that.
thing that comes with me. So they were fortunate enough to find a nice girl that they were willing to rock with for some years,
Okay.
and so they were never like that. They did finally dabble into it, and it was just very fun to me because I used to be like, you know, was it worth the wait? Like, was it good? Like, they seem happy with their decision that they made. And yeah, it's just funny to look back and talk to them about some of the stories because we used to do the craziest stuff, man. Like, I'd be getting them lap dances.
Oh
Like,
my
I was
goodness.
always trying. I'd be like, you like this, don't you? They'd be like, no. I'd be like, whatever.
And you're like, yeah, you do.
You ain't got to lie to me, fool.
Yeah.
But that was just me being immature and young. But nonetheless, let me go back to this girl, right?
Okay. Oh, yeah.
So she would do like you did. She would bring me to the promised land, but then she got to a point where she was like, listen, I don't know what it is about you, but I want you to do this. And I was very taken back by it.
It's a big
I didn't want
responsibility.
to. Yeah, it's exactly what it was. I said, I don't want this responsibility because this means that I'm going to always be remembered by you.
Yeah.
You will never be able to just forget me and let me be out of your mind.
I forgot mine.
Did you?
Yeah, it wasn't really memorable. But I mean, that's not here
But
or there.
did you
I
wait
was
till
just,
29?
No, but I was close
Okay,
to
well.
that. I was just,
So I'm exaggerating in which I thought I was going to be under her spell for the rest of my life. Because that's what I thought.
I mean, you might, but
I thought I was going to be. And I just looked at it, I was like, listen, honestly, if you went this long, then it obviously means something to you.
Yeah.
Because it's a long time to go. And I don't think most guys are looking to take someone's virginity after a certain age. Once you pass like 21, 22.
what if you didn't know and then
And it just happened?
it just happened and then she told you after? Would it still be
Well,
like...
it's already done now.
But would you still have felt like, oh, like that's...
I'd be like, damn, I mean, you wouldn't have the decision to say
Yeah.
no. So at that point, you just got to hope for the best, right?
Yeah, that's
but
true.
if that decision is there and she's told you her whole background and you know how much that, you know, when she goes back home to Saudi Arabia, her mom thinks she's a princess.
Yeah.
She has no idea that she's twerking on a headstand back in the U.S. Like, she doesn't know this stuff. Yeah, like, she's a whole different girl out here. Then she goes home and the mother's like, oh, my beautiful baby is back home. And so I was like, I don't want to do that to you. I feel my own morals would kick in and I'd feel bad because, yes, I can, as an American, as a man with some game and some swag, I can spit languages and make you feel certain things that the average person back home probably couldn't. So I don't want to use that advantage and trick you into doing something you
that's
think you
good.
want to do. You see what I mean? And I would have felt guilty by it because I knew I wasn't going to like marry the girl.
And that's what I was going to
Yeah.
say. I feel like she waited so long that she wanted her first to be her husband. And if you didn't have that mindset at that time, then you did the right thing by saying like,
Yeah, exactly.
no, I'm good, you know.
And so now anybody who does sleep with her, you're basically saying, damn, if I do this, I low-key feel like I'm about to have to commit to being with her.
So what you're saying is lose your virginity early, guys.
Early enough to where it's not so much pressure on the man later in life, unless you find somebody who has that same belief. If you guys are both virgins, then you'll be
It's
like,
gonna
okay.
be some shitty ass sex.
Yeah, I know. At least you call it out for what it is. Yeah, I know.
So what do I do? I don't know. What do you do? I don't know.
Let's figure it out. Yeah.
Let's watch some stuff together. Yeah.
And yeah, so that was my experience with her, and I don't know what she's up to this day. Like, we shortly stopped talking after that because she felt like, you know, slightly rejected. And
I mean,
I
yeah,
understand,
and it's a
but
big thing too when it's
Yeah.
like that important to her, and you're
Yeah.
like, no, I'm good. It's like,
see, the thing
oh.
is, I'm very morally sound when it comes to sex. Like, I've never been the type of guy that could, even if you weren't a virgin and you just were looking for someone that actually cared about you and stuff. I have some guy friends that will be like, baby, I love you. You're the only one for me. Sleep with her and then leave.
Bullshit.
That to me is just wrong. I feel like, for one, you're setting yourself up to get a crazy girl. And when she turns crazy, you only got yourself to blame. Okay?
Yep.
You created that monster with your lies, right? So I've always been the type of person to be like, listen, this is what I'm here to offer. If you don't want it, please, by all means, walk away.
That's how I am.
If we do, it'd be a good time. But at least I set the tone from the beginning so they know what they're walking into without being tricked.
Yeah. I mean, I've done that so many times with guys, especially in America when I date them. I'm like, hey, I used to at least because I was so strong about being with an Egyptian. I was like, hey guys, just to let you know, we're not going to end up together. Yeah. So if you want to still continue this relationship for however long, sure, but I'm letting you know that we're not going to get married. And I would say it like that.
You would tell the guys we're not going to get married? So how would you know that?
Because I knew that I wasn't going to marry an American.
Oh, because they were American?
Yeah.
Okay, so you were like, we can
I was
just
so
date,
against it, yeah.
And you were like, we can even have some fun.
Yeah, no, well, like, no sex.
No sex. So we're going to date. We're going to do all the things as if I like you.
Yeah.
I'm going to make you feel like I'm maybe even falling in love. But just so you know, don't get too excited.
Heartbreaker.
Who would accept that role?
That's what I'm saying. And just like you, though, they would be like, all right.
See, that's a lot different than just...
Got it like that.
That's a lot different than casual sex. You're asking them to be casually in love.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's a cold... Because anybody who's presented with that is just thinking they're going to turn you around and like make you fall in love with them.
Yeah.
And it never worked. Okay.
I mean, I've enjoyed my time with a lot of people, but like my first boyfriend ever in America, I told him that. Like, I remember the day he asked me to be his girlfriend, and I was like, I remember everything. We were like at his house. I was looking at him, like we were in his room, and I was like, honestly, I'm going to let you know, like, I'm saying no just because I don't see myself marrying you.
Yeah.
But if you still want to like hang out and stuff, okay. And he was just like, I can't believe you just said that.
Yeah,
I'm like,
that's a brutal blow.
I was like, I did, but I want to be honest, and I'm like a very blunt, honest person, and it's like made me lose a lot of people. But other than that, I'm just, you know.
See, I could never get away with saying that to like a white girl. Hey, look here, look here, girl. Just so you know, and I think that's because.
But I think that's better to be honest and have the girl be like, all right.
No, but I was gonna say, but it's different because I'm in America and I've been exposed to all races. So for me to say that is going to feel very offensive. For you to say it, you kind of get a pass because you are from another world. Yeah. And you can't really blame. You see what I mean? Yeah, it's very different because you are just like, look, this is all I've known my entire life. Because they're going to
be like, why are you saying this?
Yeah, and you can explain it with an actual reasoning other than
just because.
I don't like your cooking and I don't like your music.
I don't like your cooking. My mom doesn't like you, so.
Yeah, you gotta have a little bit more depth than just simply being in a different culture.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Did you have like, who was that first friend? Because I know you had to have had like that first friend that was like, look, girl, it's time to adapt you into the States. Into this culture. Was there one girl that kind of turned you out?
I don't think I've ever had like friends who did it. I think it was more me just realizing that, okay, I need to stop being so like strict and hard-headed about every belief that I have.
Did you feel like you were like getting outcasted from like
I'm still outcasted. Until today I'm outcasted. Just because
you're in all the circles.
But I always feel...
You got more friends than most.
Listen, friends is a big statement there, buddy. But I think I'm always outcasted no matter where I am or what I do, just because I'm Egyptian and I'm surrounded by non-Egyptians. So I'm always
you feel outcasted?
Yeah.
Okay. We're not actually outcasting you.
I don't know.
To us, you're just Yasmeen, the cool girl. Yeah. But you feel like I'm alone.
Honestly, I do. And this is going to go into like a whole different conversation, but like during the Black Lives Matter, like whole thing that happened in LA, like recently, you know, I went out and I protested and I wanted to be a part of it because I wanted to show my support. And I just felt like I was always looked at like, why are you here? You know? And I would go by people, and usually like African Americans as well. But
we were looking at you like that.
Yeah, it was just like, because they didn't know what I am. You know, it's like when they look at me, they see, oh, she's white. She's a white girl, and I'm like,
I don't see that.
But because you also know me a little bit, I feel.
No, even if I just saw you, I think Black Lives Matter, especially this year, was the biggest collection of all races. That
I know, and that's what I loved about it.
And so I don't think, I can't imagine somebody looking at you and saying, what are you doing here? What the hell do they think you're doing there? You're helping us support. What do you mean? You're protesting with us.
I got it in a couple different times where it was just, I got people commenting, obviously, because the internet is a horrible place, but
Well, on behalf of the black folk, I apologize.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It was like, oh, you're just doing this for clout. Oh, you're just doing this, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, if I was doing it for clout, I would go take a picture and go home. I wouldn't walk for 10 miles with my friends. I wouldn't, go again the next day in the heat and get sunburned. I wouldn't do it. That's not clout anymore. That's like actually torture.
Exactly.
So that was just like, all right, whatever, that's bullshit. But I would go to parties, like events, not parties that like were related to that topic, and majority of people there were black, and it would just be me like, hi guys, like, hi, I'm here, just supporting. And it's usually from girls, and it would just be like, oh, like blah, blah, blah. And I had one girl who now, follows me, and she's like super nice to me. But the first impression was just like, oh, can you take a photo of us? Because, like, we're all like wearing this or whatever. Yeah. And like, granted, I had the same thing that she was looking for on, but she just looked at me. She's like, can you take a photo of us? And my friend was like, why can't she be in it? And she was like, oh, like Black Lives Matter, Black queens, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And the girls were like all different. They were, dark skin, light skin, mixed, like it was everything. And I was like, yeah, no problem. And my friend goes like, you do know she's Egyptian, right? Yeah. And the other girl goes like, oh, you're Egyptian? Okay, yeah, no, I want you to be in it too. And I literally was just like, okay. But it felt shitty. It felt fake, and it felt like it doesn't matter like what I look like. If I'm here to support, then just accept that support, So that's what I mean. Like, I always feel like I'm outcasted in some way.
So I will say, being from here, I think you're just finally getting a little taste of what it's like to always be here. Yeah. Because that is just the ignorance of the United States. There's so many cultures that are all in here at once, and people just feel like they have to click up all the time. Yep. And in many situations, it's appropriate to stand with your people. Yeah. But in other situations, just like, come on, man, if we're all here for the common goal, like everybody at this point
we're all here
should
for
be
the same
accepted.
cause. Yeah.
So that's crazy for you to feel that type of,
I mean, it happens. It just, it's always something, it's always like if I'm hanging out with a group of white people, which never happens really, but if I do, then it's like I'm the exotic one, like the one that's not from here and that's gonna bring culture to the group. Yeah. And if I'm hanging out with like a different group, then it's just like I'm that Egyptian girl, like I'm never like just in with everybody.
Egyptians are so rare. I'm gonna just go ahead and say that because you're the only Egyptian I know. I'm sure there's plenty of y'all here, but in my lifetime,
not in LA.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. So I can see why, without having somebody of your culture to be here, you feel kind of alone. Yeah. Yeah. And
I can see like the positive side of it as well. Like, oh, like you're special, you're exotic, whatever. But it comes with a lot of negative because it's like nobody understands me. Yeah. Like if I want to say something that's Egyptian related, it's like what? Like what are you saying? Yeah, yeah. Sometimes I forget things because I wasn't in America my whole life. So like people will talk about something and I'm just like, I was in Egypt those years. I have no idea what you're talking about. And I can't even like chime in because I have no idea. Yeah. And so that's how I feel like I'm kind of like outcasted until today. But there was a point in my life where I was just like, okay, I need to like start understanding American culture and like accepting it a little bit more and just kind of mixing it in with my Egyptian culture. Yeah. So even until today, like I have very strong beliefs on certain things and, just a lot of Egyptian things that are very strong with me. Yeah. But I have accepted more of like the American culture and kind of can see why it does what it does. So
I think that whoever you spend the bulk of your time with, as far as indulging their culture, you're going to start to pick up on that. So it's kind of like if you are a black man who grew up in a black neighborhood, the only thing you know is black. You know black music, you know black food, you know black culture. You see what I mean? And then you start to date somebody outside of your culture. Let's say a white girl. They're listening to completely different music. Their food is different. Yeah. They're watching different shows. You don't know why they're laughing. You're like, this isn't funny.
This isn't funny. Yeah,
like you don't understand it. So you feel very alone. You're just like, this is crazy. You go to their family outings. You're the only little black dot in the picnic picture.
Black dot.
And you're like,
has this happened to you?
No, I like I said, I went to an all white high school. Oh, yeah. So I knew what it was like to be one or two amongst hundreds. Yeah. So I get the feeling of being alone in that aspect because you just want to be around the comfort of the people that understand your jokes. You can say little lines from something. And so I do get that. But I will say that as you spend more time around them, you start to feel like, okay, I kind of get them a little bit. You know what I mean? Maybe it's sometimes better when maybe the odds are a little different. Maybe like 5 of y'all, 5 of us. You know, maybe we can all kind of be at a disadvantage equally. And then it feels a little bit more comforting. So I also grew up around a lot of like there's a lot of culture as far as Brazilians and Portuguese people, and so I grew up on that Spanish food as well in Boston. Nice. I love it. So when I hang around like Brazilian girls and stuff like that, I also feel kind of at home because I grew up around it enough and I spent enough time to say this is like somewhat a part of my childhood and what I know. So yeah, I feel like if you spend enough time around something other than your own, you will eventually start to adapt. You know what I mean? You don't have to necessarily like switch over and become them. Still hang on to who you are as a person. But there's some beauty in being like, okay, I can now appreciate the goodness of all their cultures, because they all have good sides to them. Even if you don't understand some of the stuff, it's like, okay.
And I think that's good though. It's good to not understand, because when you're around other people, you can ask questions and you can understand, and that kind of just broadens your knowledge without traveling. So I always think like, yes, have more friends of like different races and different cultures, because it's better. It's like benefiting you. Like you're always learning something new. So yeah, if you're in a group of all black people or all, like even Egyptians, like I can't be in a group of all Egyptians anymore because my mind is so mixed
diverse
now. It's so diverse that it's like when they say something that's like 100% Egyptian, I'm like, whoa, like definitely don't think like that. So even when I go back to Egypt, I'm just like still an outcast because I'm now the American, and I'm like, no, I'm not. Like you know,
but you are.
It's
in your mind,
I'm just,
you are. You have experienced some stuff. They will never know about. All right, y'all, so to recap, in this episode we covered a lot of the major differences and the challenges that there are as a foreigner coming over to the US to make a life, to date, to make friends, to just simply exist in a whole new world different from anything you've ever known. Oftentimes we don't see it from their perspective. We have no idea because this is our everyday existence. So it was very important for me to have Yasmeen come here and tell us from her point of view what it's like. I think it opens up our eyes to the fact that we are all very different, and in a good way. Sometimes it takes a little while to understand it and open up to it, but if you do, I think that's something that makes this place very special. Very different, but special at the same time. I think as Americans, we also have to be very mindful to show love and embrace those who come over to this country, because we're all different in our own ways. We all have our struggles. And it was very heartbreaking to hear that somebody like her could show up and want to support a cause that was meant for us and be shunned away for the simple fact that she wasn't one of us. Because at the end of the day, anybody who shows up to represent with us in that moment is for us. And I'm gonna show just as much love as any other person who's there standing up for me. So let's make friends with one another, and let's fall in love with one another if that just so happens to be the path that's meant for you too. All right, y'all, thank you so much for watching Furey Talks. We hope you enjoyed this episode. We hope you learned something from it. I know I did as well. I want to thank Yasmeen for coming in and teaching us about your culture and how it works with us. Tell everybody how they can find you.
You guys can find me on Instagram at Yasmeen Scarab. وكمان عايزة أقول لكم لكل المصريين معلش كان كل الكلام بالإنجليزي، بس هحاول أنا ألاقي حد يعمل ترجمة تحت عشان أنا بحبكم كتير. I hope you guys enjoyed this as well. I know I did. Thank you.
I enjoyed having you here so much. Thank you. Thank you guys so much for watching. Always make sure you like, comment, and if you haven't already, subscribe and turn on the post notifications so you know when the next episode is coming. As always, Furey Talks. Till next time, later.
Furey Talks.